Christian Miele is one of Europe's most prolific growth investors at Headline. Robert Lang is at Vitruvian Partners, 4 exits as an operator, before crossing the table to invest. The question on every founder's mind right now: what does it actually take to raise growth stage capital in Europe today? Please welcome Christian and Robert. Hi guys, wherever you feel comfortable. Thank you so much, guys, and I'm so excited to talk to you because I think this is actually one of the main topics that we have today. I would like to start with you, Robert. 4 exits as an operator, and then you crossed the table. What was the moment that made you decide it was time to invest rather than build?
I think I've toyed with the idea to go to the investment side a couple of times, and I actually made a couple of attempts. But then when I quit my job at Social Bakers, I switched roles with my wife. We actually changed full-time. She took off her career, and I took care of the kids. And then after a while, the kids got more independent, and I started to look for a more spread out opportunity because I wasn't able to commit like 120% to one topic. And with investment, you have more eggs, and you don't always put like all eggs in one basket for 4 or 5 years. And so far, so good. So I can still stay in the industry, but I don't have to deep dive in one topic for half a decade at least.
Makes complete sense. So you managed to rearrange it all. Christian, your career has touched founders, funds, and boards. What's the common thread you put at the center of it all?
First of all, thank you for having me today. Like, it's a pleasure to be here.
Of course.
So to me, always the human relationship. It sounds a little bit, almost
basic.
Too basic, but it's just true. I think this is what this industry is all about, and it has served me well in my career so far, and I will keep investing in this.
That makes complete sense, and definitely also in a world where we're moving more towards AI, the human interaction is more important than ever. Robert, briefly about Vitruvian. So most of the room won't have a sharp picture of how do you say it?
Vitruvian.
Vitruvian. So 60 seconds. What is the fund, and what genuinely sets it apart from other names in European growth?
Vitruvian is the largest European growth equity fund. We currently invest from a fund that has over $8 billion. And we do any check size from 50 to 800 million per investment. And we love to back category winners. And we always look for what we call dynamic situations. So if there's a market shift which is caused by technology, by regulation, by other opportunities, typically you can find amazing companies with amazing trajectories. And that's what we're trying to do. So far, so good.
So far, so good. That's so nice. And yeah, Robert, where does Vitruvian then sit in the European startup to scale up pipeline today? And what's the gap that you're trying to really close?
A lot of people complain about too little growth capital, and I think Vitruvian was conceived with exactly that idea. So you saw a lot of successful European companies taking on majorly American growth capital because there wasn't any European provider. Even if the company did not have any plans to cross the channel at all, they still took American money, and this was the idea and the hypothesis on which Vitruvian was founded. And we still seem to be in the minority because people always claim for the need for more growth capital. So we're very happy to continue and try to deploy and find great companies and back great entrepreneurial teams. And I think that's what sets us apart. We always want to back a management team. We're not going in and say like, hey, look, we bring our own operation team and we're going to restructure, we're going to put on a lot of debt. So it's not a financial structuring. We always have the discussion like, how can we make the cake as big as possible so that our part of the cake is as valuable as possible, whereas some other investors have a different approach.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense and exactly what a lot of people have been asking for. So that's really, really interesting. Christian, what brought you to DTM and how active is Headline really getting in deep tech right now?
So Martin Schilling, the founder of DTM, I don't know if he's here somewhere, but
He must be somewhere in the room.
we are good friends, and we worked together at the German Startup Association before. And when he initiated Deep Tech Momentum, I was an early fan and early believer and like to come here. And I think this is the second time in a row where I'm playing an active part on the stage. And yeah, it's a fantastic conference. So I love to come back and network and meet new people. And I think Headline, as a deep tech investor, is moving very aggressively into the field, also realizing that this is where a lot of value is going to be created over the next 1 or 2 decades. And I think investing in a way has changed, where the old model of venture capital, and by the way, it has always been through some sort of a morphing and evolution structure, because the way how venture capital was used 60 years ago was very different from the ways how venture capital was deployed 25 years ago, and is very different from today, and it will be very different in 25 years from now, I think. But at the very moment, I think we are at a very, I mean, to Robert's term, a dynamic transformation and a huge shift. I feel like that there is a real transformation happening between the digital world and the physical world, and this is where a lot of deep tech plays at exactly this type of intersection. And it's a backable asset by now. Like, it's a backable, fundable sector. And so I think that every investor, sooner or later, will have to ask themselves, are you going to be a pure play software investor, or are you going to learn how to deploy capital in an industry which is maybe not as repeatable as software was?
And how are you going about that, speaking of that? Because that's also quite of a transition, right? So is there anything...
Personally, I mean, if you ask different partners at our firm, they will probably look at it differently. But for me, it's always the same couple of things that I look for. It's an amazing team. It's a product that is better than anything else that exists right now, and it is a large market. These 3 things, you can literally put it on everything and have a system that helps you to build conviction. And to me, I always dreamed about being an investor and backing companies that really change the way how we live. And I think deep tech is much more suitable for this type of in investing. And so I think it's not so hard. I mean, like, we would always look for product market fit. I mean, what does it even mean? I think even in the software terms, it's a very terrible defined concept. And if you take this very terrible defined concept to this new world, it's as terrible, but you can hang your hat on something, and you just have to figure it out and define it for yourself. But this is also the beauty about the job.
Right. Yeah, I was actually more thinking, I had a deep tech startup myself back then, and one problem I saw in Europe was that they were not so willing to wait for the longer time that it took to build something with deep tech rather than building a quick SaaS. So is that something you guys, of course, are having in mind, that this can definitely take much more time than what it normally takes to get the first growth?
Yeah, I mean, we are a little bit lucky in a sense that we come in at a later stage. So we typically have the luxury to be able to look at a lot of history, right? So we can see, you know, how the traction of the company was, how companies unfolded, and many times we speak for years to founders and to companies until they finally figure it out, right? And then the trajectory goes on, and then they say, like, okay, now we found it, or we figured it out, or there's a structural shift in the market or in the technology that all of a sudden allows it to be very successful. And then we can come in. But again, we have the luxury of looking at all this history and then trying to project the future, right? I mean, it's not easy, but it definitely helps. And so we love that position, and we trust people like Christian and many others to actually figure out the much more difficult questions, like who is going to make it and why and so forth. So in that sense, we stand on the shoulder of giants.
And maybe just to add to what Robert said, I feel like that you're right, and a fund like our fund has a 10-year duration. You still need to figure out how to create liquidity on the way. But I feel like, and this is the reality that we are like seeing every day now, that liquidity options are changing as well. Like it's not only an M&A transaction or an IPO, but there will be secondary offerings on the way and different forms of creating liquidity and continuation. So I feel like that the venture capital model itself, by the way, if you look at it on average, like it takes longer than 10 years in most of the cases anyways. But like the truth is also that investors will figure out a way to create liquidity for their investors.
Can I ping pong on this question? Because that's also one thing. So you asked in the beginning what's special about Vitruvian. I mean, we take a lot of diligence and a lot of work to identify great companies. But when we found them, we have an incredible amount of flexibility on how to actually work with them. So in terms of when we invest, we're happy to do primary, we're happy to do secondary, we're happy to even invest in public companies. So that's very important for many companies who want to go IPO. As a founder, if you know that 60% of your cap table or 80% of your cap table has to sell after the lockup period, you are trying to look for a more homogeneous or long-term partner. So also there, but again, for us, the more tricky part is to find the companies we want to invest in and who want to partner with us, rather than finding the way of creating liquidity for the funds, for the founders, and so forth. So that's
which is quite interesting. Maybe you guys, I don't know, can name a deep tech subsector where growth stage capital is going to matter most in the next 18 months. Any idea?
Go ahead.
I mean, I think the trend that we are observing right now is going to continue, where we see a lot of money going towards dual use and defense. We will see more money going into AI labs and labs in general. I personally have the thesis that anything regarding energy and energy infrastructure is probably going to benefit from venture capital down the road. I mean, if you do the math, it just doesn't work with the grid we have right now, so it needs to improve, and this is where the money will go. So I feel like we will see a lot of the trends continuing that we are observing today, and some of them are probably even to create more escape velocity.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense and matches very well who we are having here today, right? So maybe you can describe then your ideal outcome from these 2 days. If DTM 2026 worked perfectly for you, what specifically would happen?
Yeah, I would have met very interesting founders or CEO of companies that are growing into the next stage of capital and want to raise a, let's say, 50, 100, 200 million round. And I will have met Christian and many other VCs who already have these companies in their portfolio, so we could become a partner sometime further down the line. And thank you for bringing this crowd together and bringing all the people together. Because often you can spend days and weeks traveling everywhere, and Christian does that almost religiously, right? And so events like these are fantastic to be super efficient, meet a lot of people in a very short time frame, and then go home inspired with lots of new ideas and lots of new angles. So thank you for that.
No, yeah, thank you for coming. And maybe I can send it further to you.
Yeah, like so there's this Deep Tech Momentum app, and I think I got 75 meeting requests.
Robert is nodding too.
So I think the kind of deal flow that is emerging from this conference is going to be very interesting, and like I'm looking forward to exploring it in detail. But seriously, to Robert's point, I think bringing together a community, like giving them a stage and making new connections, that's how you nurture a community. That's how you nurture an ecosystem. And deep tech is a young sector, so I think these type of formats by itself are a huge success. And I think I'm already kind of super happy that this is happening.
So nice. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, I have one more for you. If you can give me a sentence each. The single piece of advice you'd give a founder in this room who's mid-race this week.
Who is what? Sorry?
Who's mid-racing this week? Who's mid their race this week? Do you have a single
You mean
advice?
fundraising?
Fundraising this week, yes.
You shouldn't be here. You should be at the
should be
desk
here,
and
yes.
talk to investors.
Perfect.
I think like when you are trying to win customers, you are always trying to understand where your product fits best, which are the best customers for your product, and then which ones to chase, because the world is very big and has lots of options. And you will see that also on the capital side, there is a lot of funds and a lot of people who are happy to invest. Most of them have a pretty clear-cut spectrum of what they want and what they have promised to their investors, how to deploy the money. And so my recommendation would be, number one, make sure you research the investors and actually talk to the ones that are the right people for your company. That's the right stage, the right geography, right ticket size, etc. And then the other part is, some people will have to say no, even if you're a great company, because you somehow don't fit in the criteria that was promised to their investors. So don't take this personal. Many investors have a very clearly defined scope, and if you're outside that scope, that doesn't say anything about the quality of your company, don't be discouraged, just continue, and you either you win or you learn. So don't take it personal, even if it's your baby. If somebody says no, that may have tons of reasons that have nothing to do with your company, so don't get discouraged and keep hustling.
This was more than one sentence.
Yeah, but that was amazing. I think that was really encouraging, and that helped a lot. So what I want to do, just to give the audience also some opportunity, if you have any questions, please feel free now to ask them. So any question for Christian and Robert? Don't be shy. If you're raising right now, this is your time.
Not all at
I shouldn't have
once.
said you shouldn't be here if you're
You
raising.
should be here. No? Well, maybe all the questions were already answered. So, yeah. Any last piece of advice you wanna give?
No, I mean, let's give back time to the audience and everyone to go out fundraising, building business, making contacts and networking.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Christian, and thank you, Robert. Capital isn't only money. It's relationship, as you say, and the best one outlasts the cycle. So from the cap table now to low Earth orbit. Thank you so much, guys. Give them a big hand. Thank you so much. Thank you.